So that's where we'll spend our attention, and we want to look at the topic of data modeling in these hybrid scenarios. So to approach this question, let's start by looking at the business objects environment and what's been going on there and what's been building up in the business objects environment over the years. Well, first of all, it's a lot of reports, and for many of you, web intelligence is the primary content type within your business objects deployment. So that's where we'll be putting our focus today. And really, those reports are the output of information that through various report development processes, this is really answering questions that the business feels is important in managing the operations. So this really is a visualization or a representation of what the business feels is important within the data that's being used. So that data on the other end of the spectrum is just in its raw form. So it's really just an accumulation of data records that it holds the potential for that information for managing the operations, but it's really still just raw data. And it's in a very database structures with tables and joins, and not at all business user friendly. So the visual output and the stored potential, there's actually quite a big range in between there. There's quite a big gap. There's quite a distance to travel from taking raw data to its visual output. And that's the range that we want to be talking about today. That's the gap and how that's being filled. And that's being filled by business objects logic that's being built up through mechanisms and processes that take that raw data and prepare it so that it's ready for information consumption and use within report development processes. Again, this is all driving towards what the business has deemed important in managing the operations and the business questions that it's answering. So let's look at this business objects logic, and it's actually, we can break this into two sections, one being analytics modeling and the other being report development. Key area here is analytics modeling, and a very big factor for the business objects logic is in the universes. This is where the raw data in its rough, non-business user-friendly manner gets turned into measures and dimensions, and it's cleaned up in a manner of ways so that it's ready and usable for business-focused report development. So this is really a huge step, a key step that takes that raw data and prepares it. On the report development side, this is where we get into the web intelligence reports. And this is really where we're defining what the business questions are and interpreting how those questions are addressed, defining the data that needs to be in place to be able to support those questions, and the structures of that data and how it's going to be presented. Within that, there are SQL statements that get generated that are critical to going after the very tightly defined data that's needed to support those reports. So that's all part of the business objects logic as well. So to cover that gap, there's lots of knowledge, lots of different areas of knowledge that are needed. It's knowledge of the business questions, it's knowledge of the data systems and their structures and the technologies that they run within, as well as knowledge of the business object system, just to name sort of the major categories of knowledge that's required. So as you think about the people within your organization, you may think that and find that there's one person who covers all of these areas. Maybe that's you. And that's a rare commodity for someone who has the knowledge to cover this full range. But more often it's covered in a team structure that covers off all of these sections. And even if there were a person who had all of this knowledge, they would still be working in a team structure to accomplishing everything that needs to be done, because it's a very collaborative process in building up this logic. There's requirements gathering, there's the development processes, there's testing and QA processes. There's all the reviews and approvals to confirm that the universes are delivering what they should and that the reports are delivering what they should. And then there's all the update cycles. So there's a lot of effort and energy and resources that go into building up this logic and all that goes into that. So as we think about those different components and all that's being pulled into that, the effort and the investment that's gone into that gets a strong payoff. it gets good quality. The outcomes typically are good quality in terms of the universes that are prepared, the reports that are prepared, and there's a lot of trust that goes with that effort and energy that will have gone into the preparation of those mechanisms within your deployment. On the negative side, though, there's been a lot of time and a lot of funding and resources that have gone into building up all of this. So the main point that we're making here is that your business objects logic is an asset, and it's a valuable one, and it's one that's very important to managing your company operations. It's been built up over time, but it's most definitely an asset that needs to be recognized and leveraged going forward.